Our News Live at 7, thousands held back from Bahamian passports get a chance at true citizenship starting Monday. We'll tell you where to go and what to do. A plea deal for the man who admits to running over his girlfriend and endangering her infant child. Heavy, consistent, and lots of it. Thunderstorm conditions bringing flooding to New Providence residents. We've got a first look at what happened. And then in our news at 7:30, a schoolyard stabbing gets a teenager locked away for attempted murder. Our News Live at 7 starts now. Welcome to Our News Live at 7. I'm Jerome Sawyer. Thank you so much for joining us. Extreme weather early this morning, bringing heavy rains and flooding across the capital, making for a dicey and difficult morning commute. Residents most impacted are sounding off in a moment. But first, we begin with this. That groundbreaking citizenship ruling by the London-based Privy Council, now a game changer for thousands in a matter of days. Starting Monday, if you were born in the Bahamas to unwed parents, more specifically, if you have a foreign mother and a Bahamian father on your birth certificate, the Passport Office says it will begin accepting applications for your case starting June 26. Ministry of Foreign Affairs is encouraging you to take a look at the requirements to help you be fully prepared through mofa.gov.bs. The ministry says they're continuing to work closely with the Office of the Attorney General. They also want you to keep an eye on future advisories, amendments, or procedural changes in light of that citizenship ruling by the Privy Council. Well, the man accused of stabbing and running over his girlfriend back in 2021 takes a plea deal. Ray Sands admitted to beating and stabbing Petra Curry as she held their one-year-old daughter outside her Key West Street home on November 15th of that year. Bystanders stopped the assault and took the infant inside. Sands then knocked Curry down and ran her over with his Nissan Note as she lay in the street. A video of the attack went viral after security footage was released. Sands pleaded guilty to attempted murder and exposing a child to grievous harm. He was sentenced to 15 years imprisonment for the attempted murder charge and 4 years for exposing the child to grievous harm. The sentences will run at the same time. Sands, who worked as a clerk in the accounts department at the Supreme Court, was never granted bail. As a result, the 1 year and 7 months that he spent on remand will be deducted from his sentences. A police officer and his cousin deny their involvement in a murder conspiracy. 47-year-old Corporal Darren Davis, who is on bail, and 27-year-old Stefan Davis, who is on remand, are accused of plotting to murder Jason Whitfield, a senior clerk at the Passport Office last December. Now, the 43-year-old was found shot to death in his government-assigned car in Garden Hills on December 3rd. Investigators have yet to charge anyone with Whitfield's murder. The Davises pleaded not guilty to the allegations at their arraignment before Senior Justice Bernard Turnham. Their trial is now to be heard by Justice Renee McKay, who will fix a trial date on July 6th. Well, I'm sure many of you were awakened by the extreme weather early this morning. Thunderstorms dumped heavy rains as lightning ripped across the skies. Sunrise revealed flooding in many communities. The widespread flooding making it difficult for morning commuters here in the capital. But for residents in the Bacardi Road area, the floodwaters rose into their homes. When our news showed up, this family was dumping buckets of water out of their home. They say it pretty much happens every time there's a downpour.
Oh, plenty. I got like a foot and a half. Every time it rains like this, get like a foot and a half water.
How long has this been going on?
For 40 years now. Every year we got this. Every year. Plenty. Our furniture is damaged all the time. Fridge gone, stove, the bureaus, all the bureaus them gone. Clothes too. Because one time the roof started leaking.
Well, we'll have much more on the early morning storm's impact on our news at 7:30 with our Natalia Hall. Tropical storm Brett barrels towards the eastern Caribbean at this hour at near hurricane strength. There is a hurricane watch in effect for St. Lucia as the National Hurricane Center says worsening conditions are coming overnight. We'll have more on that coming up in world news. But for now, meteorologist Ian McKenzie is in the Weather Center with a look at the tropics and the severe weather we've been experiencing. Ian?
Thanks, Jerome, and good evening, Bahamas. Here's your first look at weather. Currently outside our studios, we're under cloudy skies with a temperature of 85. Our winds are out of the south-southeast at 10 miles per hour, but it feels like temperature of 83. Current temperatures across the nation at this time: in Freeport City, we have 84. Also in Marsh Harbor, we have 85 in Allenstown, Bimini, Great Harbor Key, Nicholstown, Andros, also in the capital, and 85 in Governor's Harbor, Eleuthera. In the central Bahamas, we have 86 in Camps Bay, 85 in Arthurstown, Georgetown, and also Deadman's Key, Long Island. And the cool spot again tonight is Coburn Towns in Salvador at 82. In the southeast Bahamas, we have a pair of 86s in Tonkintown, Ragged Island, 86 in Delectable Bay, Auckland, and 85 in Colonel Hill, Crooked Island. Abrahams Bay also holding at 85, while a pair of 86s in Matutang, Inagua, and Providenciales, Turks and Caicos Islands. Taking a first look at our satellite and radar imagery at this time, we still have this persistent cloudiness across the northwest and central islands, but most of this right now is just high clouds. We do have a few pockets of showers and thunderstorms popping across the extreme northwest Bahamas. Most of that really is going to be an overnight, early morning activity. Stay tuned. This is your first look at weather. More weather still to come.
Still to come on our news tonight, a corporation just for tourism. Agenda item number one, let's do something about downtown. Preparing to say farewell. Mourners begin paying respects to the late George Smith as the nation and his family prepares to say farewell tomorrow. And did you know that even mass food production has an impact on the climate? Find out more in our weekly Sustainability First report. It's all on the other side of the break. Legislation tabled before the House to make the Tourism Development Corporation a statutory board. The move will make it a corporation focused on improving tourism. Top of the agenda, the revitalization of downtown Nassau. Here's Megan Shepard tonight.
Executive Director of the Bahamas Tourism Board, Ian Ferguson, says tourism officials are working with public and private partners to enhance the look and feel of downtown Nassau. New projects include a street musician program and a mural project.
And we see how much just a simple mural could change the feel of a place. And so we're looking to just see how many of those buildings we can transform in that way. We've done the groundwork. We've identified amazing muralists in the country who we believe are on board in helping us make this happen.
Then there's enhancing the overall tourism product, whether it be in the food and beverage sector, retail, tour excursions, and the list goes on.
We're very pleased that we've recently begun renovations on the pilot phase of our incubation center. It's going to be east of Bay and Rawson Square.
Earlier this week, Minister of Tourism Chester Cooper announced $10 million have been secured through an agreement with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to fund the centers. Ferguson says the funds will directly impact New Providence, Grand Bahama, Exuma, and Eleuthera.
So much of that, of course, will be towards grant funding for those small businesses. Much of it will be for the technical assistance that they will need to be strong enough to sustain themselves. And of course, much of it will be towards the administration and the construction of those centers on those islands.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepherd.
Thanks, Megan. Family, parliamentary and political colleagues, former constituents and friends preparing to say farewell to former Cabinet Minister and Exuma's MP George Smith tomorrow. The line of those paying respects today, including former Prime Ministers Perry Christie and Hubert Ingram.
A very prominent Exumian told me the other day how when he was in university, how he was very pleased to receive from George on a monthly basis $100, which was good money for him as a student. I last saw George at the Exuma Regatta. We spent lots of time together, we hung out together, and his passing is a great loss for the Bahamas, you know.
Well, Smith served as a Member of Parliament for Exuma for 29 years before stepping down from frontline politics. Smith was a signatory to the Constitutional Conference in 1972, which laid the groundwork for independence. He also served cabinet posts, including Minister of Transport and Agriculture, and more recently, Special Advisor to the Prime Minister ahead of the 50th independence celebrations. Former Prime Minister Perry Christie describing him as an outstanding MP.
He was an outstanding family island representative. And that is important because in those days, the majority of the population being in New Providence, then in Grand Bahama, you would have expected policies then calculated to impact the largest part of the population. George never ever abandoned Exuma, and even after he left politics, long after he left politics, George was a good representative for Exuma.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines around the world, as the U.S. Coast Guard says a missing submersible imploded near the wreckage of the Titanic, killing all 5 people on board. Plus, Tropical Storm Brett barrels towards the eastern Caribbean as hurricane watches are now in effect. And later, how can growing our own food help to preserve the environment? It's all in tonight's Sustainability First Report. We'll get you all caught up when our news returns. This is our news, and welcome back. We turn our attention now to those stories making headlines across the world. It is the worst possible outcome for a 4-day search. The U.S. Coast Guard says all 5 people on board a missing submersible are dead after it imploded near the wreckage of the Titanic. In a news conference Thursday, the Coast Guard said the families of the crew of the Titan have been notified. The announcement came after the critical 96-hour mark when breathable air could have run out. Rear Admiral John Mugger of the 1st Coast Guard District said debris found during the search of the vessel, missing since Sunday, is consistent with a catastrophic explosion or implosion of that vessel.
In consultation with experts from within the Unified Command, the debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber. Upon this determination, we immediately notified the families.
Police in South Korea have moved for an arrest warrant for a woman accused of killing 2 of her newborns. Police allege she kept their bodies in her freezer for years. Authorities telling international media the woman in her 30s had admitted killing the babies and said that she did so because she faced economic difficulties in caring for her 3 other children, ages 12, 10, and 8. According to police, her husband said he had been told the 2 children were aborted and therefore did not know about the alleged murders. They say the newborns were only a day old when they died. And now to the region. Tropical storm Brett barrels towards the eastern Caribbean at near hurricane strength as a hurricane watch has been issued for St. Lucia. The storm was located about 200 miles east of Barbados on Thursday morning, moving west at 15 miles per hour, maximum sustained winds near 70 miles per hour. Miami's National Hurricane Center is expecting the storm to start affecting the eastern Caribbean later today. This as airports, businesses, schools, and offices close in St. Lucia and Dominica. Forecasters are warning of torrential downpours, landslides, and even flooding. And finally, Amnesty International urging countries across the Americas to stop what it calls racist treatment of Haitian asylum seekers. In a statement on World Refugee Day earlier this week, Amnesty said instead of receiving solidarity from other countries in the Americas, Haitians have suffered acts of racism, xenophobia, and systemic violence in their search for protection. Amnesty said it had documented cases in Peru, Chile, the United States, Mexico, and the neighboring Dominican Republic, among other countries. And did you know that even how we are getting our food affects the climate? How, you ask? Well, recent studies showing emissions related to food transportation account for 20 of the total global emissions from food. In tonight's Sustainability First report, our Marlena Leonard details the impact of mass food importation and our local efforts to grow the local agriculture industry.
Bahamas First, putting sustainability first for our people and our environment. What's first for you and the planet comes first for us.
A study from the University of Sydney released last year found the greenhouse gas emissions caused by food transportation are up to 7 times higher than previously estimated, finding that approximately 3 gigatons, that's 3 billion tons, of emissions are released every year due to food transportation. That's almost 20% of global food system greenhouse gas emissions and near to 6% of emissions from all sources. Here in the Bahamas, officials from the Ministry of Agriculture are looking to reduce food imports and improve food security. They say the first step is making processes within the industry more accessible, especially for farmers and fisheries on family islands through My Gateway. Agriculture Minister Clay Sweeting.
We have also successfully launched the Golden Yoke Project and continue to expand and improve the operations at BEMSI. In the upcoming fiscal year, we will continue to facilitate grants like the Sustainable Food Growth Grant in collaboration with Access Accelerator. We also facilitate duty-free provisions in collaboration with the Ministry of Finance and its Customs Department to give our clients a hand up they need to grow their businesses. And last year, we provided over $2 million in duty-free concessions alone.
Our coral and seagrass carbon sinks are already hard at work, and whether you choose to make your purchase at a food store or a farmer's market can help make a difference and support the budding local farming industry. A locavore is someone who only eats foods grown within a 100-mile radius. See how much you can find in your next food shopping trip that came from home. Reporting for Our News and reminding you to put sustainability first, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Still to come on Our News Today in History, find out interesting facts about the day that was June 22nd. And then in Our News at 7:30, more on those flash floods that greeted some New Providence residents after early morning thunderstorms. And police question a New Jersey man over sexual assault allegations. That's coming up when Our News returns. It's time now to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was June 22nd, including the Bahamas Independence Order. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history in 1973, the British House of Lords voted to give the Bahama Islands its independence. Pictured is the final document that helped to pave the way for the country's eventual break from Great Britain some 3 weeks later on July 10th, 1973. Then 40 years into independence in 2013, drama unfolded in the House of Assembly when opposition leader at the time, Dr. Hubert Minnis, stood up during proceedings and defied an order to take his seat from then House Speaker Dr. Kendall Major. The outburst came days after the Speaker declared that Dr. Minnis would not be allowed to speak in Parliament after he refused to withdraw certain comments he made about then Prime Minister Perry Christie's relationship with Canadian fashion designer Peter Nygaard.
The chair will ask for a brief suspension. The chair will ask for a brief suspension. The House is hereby suspended.
You a disgrace. You're a disgrace. Disgrace to this democracy. You disgrace this democracy. Why are you trying to shout him up? Why are you trying to quiet him? Come on, man.
In 2015, one day after then Tourism Minister Obi Wilshcombe declared he wanted to lead the Progressive Liberal Party, then Tall Pines MP Leslie Miller threw his support behind Philip Davis, who was Deputy Prime Minister at the time.
Well, I hope to live forever too, but that's not going to happen. He has indicated that he has a preference to be Prime Minister. I have no inkling to be nothing except the good Member of Parliament for the good people of Tall Pines. I support Brave Davis as the leader. I think I look at Mr. Davis as always the PLP go-to man. Whenever the party is in trouble, who we go to? Brave Davis. Whenever any of our colleagues get in trouble in a legal sense, if anything happens, we go to Brave Davis. In trying to raise funds for the party to serve us on the right course, you go to Brave Davis.
June 22nd, 2016. Then Prime Minister Perry Christie defended his government's actions in the ongoing Bahamas bankruptcy saga, claiming very serious allegations. Christie said at the time a lot of prejudice had been brought into play over the matter and demanded serious intervention.
How could anyone in all of the circumstances try to argue or suggest some special out-of-the-ordinary relationship between my government and the Chinese? I'm going to try to destroy the myth that has been perpetuated in this country about the misjudgment they say that Christie made in opposing Chapter 11, once and for all.
Then in 2018, amid changes to the gaming tax regime, then Acting Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Peter Turnquest defended government's plan, saying the pending sliding scale tax was not to blame for pending layoffs.
With approximately 400 people expected to join the unemployment line by the end of next month, Turnquest says he believes the move is premature.
The fact of the matter is that the tax has not come into effect yet, and so to use that as a direct link for what is happening, I think is a bit of a stretch.
And finally, in 2022, Prime Minister Philip Davis challenged a business forum at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Kigali, Rwanda, to help countries affected by catastrophic climate change events by paying their fair share.
When the storms come, we have no escape. We do what we can to shelter, but we are at the mercy of the forces far beyond our control.
Prime Minister Philip Davis, a featured speaker at CHOGM's Business Forum Wednesday, sharing the realities of small island states.
Those of us least responsible for the carbon emissions which drive climate change are suffering from the greatest negative impact. For us, it is not simply a threat, but a clear and present danger.
And to watch that story again and for all of today's top stories, be sure and visit ournews.bs. That does it for Our News at 7. Joining us now is my good Grand Bahama friend, Italia Hall, with all the latest headlines. Italia, we've been having some crazy weather.
I know, right?
This reminds you of home, right?
A little bit. Not exactly, but a little bit.
Hopefully it clears up soon, though, for everyone. It's been a tough few days for all.
All right, thanks so much, Jerome. Well, we've got reaction tonight from residents following that localized flooding in New Providence. And an Italian airline returns to Grand Bahama after almost 4 years. Here are your latest headlines. A severe storm burst tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. New Providence getting heavy rain and winds overnight, causing localized flood. Our Joshua Williams has wet reaction. Plus, on patrol, do you know how to report a business to Consumer Affairs? Tonight, officials walk you through the process. Also, an Italian airline returns to Grand Bahama with over 100 passengers. Residents calling it a big deal for the Northern Island. And later, new taxes set to come on stream for cruise ship passengers. But cruise lines are asking government to postpone. Why the tourism minister says that might not happen. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment.
Embrace technology and the digital transformation for better business results. For small business owners.
If new, Heineken Silver was a riveting Viking saga.
Lars the 12th, your family tortured my first wife and stole my second favorite goat. Now you want to marry my daughter.
All the taste, no bitter endings. Smooth, fresh, Silver.
Whether you're battling a chronic condition or offsetting a new injury, Doctors Hospital's comprehensive rehab services offer the help you need now.
Go to doctors.
3 advanced facilities at Collins Avenue, Carmichael Road, and Cable Beach means your personalized plan for care is just a visit away. From physiotherapy to occupational therapy and speech and language pathology, our team approach is all about rebuilding together. For a full list of services, visit doctorshosp.com/rehabilitation. Doctors Hospital, trusted and best care now. Isn't your health worth it? Welcome to our news and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalia Hall. New Providence was slammed by an intense thunderstorm that dumped heavy rain and electrified skies with lightning in the pre-dawn hours. As the sun rose, the impact was clear with heavy flooding impacting scores of residents. Our Joshua Williams reports.
Many residents in the country were woken by a severe thunderstorm, the widespread flooding making it difficult for drivers to commute here in the capital. But for residents in the Bacardi Road area, the floodwaters were not confined to the roadway. We met this family dumping buckets of water out of their home, something they say they've done every time it rains heavily.
Plenty water got like a foot and a half. Every time it rains like this, get like a foot and a half water.
How long has this been going on?
For 40 years now. Every year we got this. Every year. Plenty our furniture is damaged all the time. Fridge gone. Stove, the bureaus, all the bureaus, gone. Clothes too, because one time the roof started leaking.
Ed Ron McPhee lives with his family in the home. He didn't go to work because he had to help bail water out of the house. He says this time of year always has them on edge.
I don't even think you could put like the magnitude of the situation, because anytime you see it rain, say for like an hour, a sense of fear starts to build in, because now you know everything either have to lift up on blocks or in a matter of days you have to throw it out.
There was widespread flooding on Carmichael Road, Gladstone Road and parts of the airport road, where this dash cam footage showed drivers cautiously traversing several inches of water. It resulted in a long line of traffic stretching more than a mile as motorists headed west. However, this planned nursery owner says the rain is a blessing.
Right now, I don't have to put water on my trees probably for 10 days because everything got flooded last night. The whole nursery this morning at 6 o'clock was 6 inches of water right in here. But right now it kind of drained off and it's gone into the street, so it's good for me.
Residents are now calling on government to provide relief for this vexing issue which has plagued this community for some time now. Reporting for our news, I'm Joshua Williams.
All right, thanks so much, Josh. Great reporting. While a teenager is behind bars after he was convicted of attempted murder for stabbing a student at the Anatole Rogers High School in 2022. The 15-year-old was on bail pending his trial, but was remanded into custody pending sentencing after the jury delivered its 7-2 verdict. Now on September 12th, the 14-year-old stabbed another 14-year-old student in the back during a lunchtime brawl. Prior to the stabbing, the accused had been punched, kicked, and stomped by at least 4 other students. However, the stabbing victim did not take part in the assault. Still, the teen argued that he was acting in self-defense. Police are questioning an American man in connection with an alleged sexual assault that reportedly took place on a cruise ship. The incident reportedly occurred around 3 a.m. on Wednesday on board a cruise ship after an 18-year-old woman from Philadelphia reported she was attacked by a 25-year-old New Jersey native. Now, this is the second alleged sex attack, on a local cruise ship in recent months.
Former Prime Minister Perry Christie was one of 4 former leaders appointed to the CARICOM Eminent Persons Group tasked with finding a solution to the issues in Haiti. With his experience on the matter during his time as Prime Minister, Christie says he's looking forward to the intense work ahead.
It's not for us to go in to try to impose a solution, but to work with them towards ensuring, that they are fully aware that they have the support of the region, CARICOM, and in that regard, our work is yet to be done.
The ongoing turmoil in Haiti has spilled into neighboring territories as countries like the Bahamas saw a spike in migrant apprehensions. The Eminent Person Group met in Jamaica last week with leaders from Haiti. Christie says to be selected was a compliment.
2 have been selected and appointed by Caribbean prime ministers to serve as an eminent person with colleagues who themselves are eminent, in Dr. Kenny Anthony, who's still a current member of Parliament and a former prime minister, and Bruce Golding, former prime minister of Jamaica. It's truly an honor for me and a privilege. It is a very difficult job.
All right, while officials from the Department of Consumer Affairs and price control officers spent time in Golden Gates talking with the public about what they do, spreading the word about their new location on Tonique Williams Darlin Highway and how you can know your power as a consumer. Price Inspector in the Department of Consumer Affairs, Jason Johnson, walks us through the steps to report a business to the Department of Consumer Affairs.
We have a Consumer Affairs hotline. The number is 376-1157. That is 24 hours. And now we have a new, like you said, new location. And we have a new number at 604-9002. You can always call those 2 numbers. And after hours, you can call the hotline. Any complaint, any questions, you call that number, and we will answer as best we can.
Now, Johnson tells us price control officers are out every day inspecting grocery stores and other businesses, ensuring that regulations are followed. But what happens when the rules are broken? Johnson says
it's not often, but we do find some. Like some places we'll have where some items are not priced. Some things would be overpriced. But if it's not like on an extensive level, we normally ask them to change it. If it's a repeat occurrence, then we'll have to take legal action. All right, but normally we just ask them to change it or to correct the issue.
A nice evening following lots of rain this morning. Meteorologist Ian McKenzie is in the Weather Center with a first look at weather. Ian?
Thanks, Italia, and good evening, Bahamas. Currently outside our studios, we're under cloudy skies with a temperature of 85. Our winds are out of the south-southeast at 10 miles per hour, with a feels-like temperature of 80 degrees. Taking a look at our satellite and radar imagery at this time, we still have persistent cloudiness across the northwest and central islands. Most of these clouds are mid to upper level clouds, not much rain producing or convective clouds, as we would normally say. But however, there is some high pressure down in the southeast Bahamas, giving them some nice breeze and stable conditions. Stay tuned. More weather is still to come.
Still to come on our news, cruise lines push against a new passenger tax next year, but the Deputy Prime Minister says government will stand its ground. And ready, set, jet. A major airline makes a comeback to the island of Grand Bahama after almost 4 years. Officials calling it welcome news for the local economy. Plus, are you in search of funding for your tourism-based business? A tourism board executive shares a number of opportunities when our news returns.
The Deputy Prime Minister says the increase in passenger tax will come into effect January 2024. As cruise lines look for a delay in implementation, the Deputy Prime Minister says there's already been a delay. With more on this, here's Bethany McDermott.
Deputy Prime Minister and Tourism Minister Chester Cooper says cruise lines have 7 months until the recently announced passenger tax will be implemented. That means passengers could possibly pay more if cruise lines pass on the cost. The news comes after the Tribune newspaper reported that cruise lines are pushing for the government to postpone the implementation of the tax.
Suffice to say, we've already given a 7-month delay in the implementation of the tax. The tax does not go into force until January 2024, and that's been a 7-month notice period.
According to the Tribune article, cruise lines say they were not notified early enough to prepare for the rise. The passenger tax amendment bill will require cruise passengers leaving Nassau or Freeport to pay $23 instead of $18. Those leaving by sea from a private island without visiting any other port in the country will pay $25. The tourism minister says he met with these stakeholders and communicated the government's position.
Naturally, nobody wants their taxes to increase. They've made certain representations. One of the issues were that they wanted to be able to recapture all of the taxes from their customers, etc.
As for the impact the delay could have on government revenue, Cooper says there will be no impact.
The government factored in its formulas that the actual date for implementation would be January 1, 2024. So it's not going to impact the government revenues per se.
Cooper was asked if he's concerned this could be a deterrent.
I don't think it will have a significant impact on whether somebody chooses to travel to the islands of the Bahamas or not. We have a great brand. This is a great destination. We have magnificent waters.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
For more than half a century, tourism has been the country's golden goose. Many people are involved in the country's #1 industry, and Executive Director for the Bahamas Tourism Board, Ian Ferguson, says there's room for small and micro businesses, especially those that operate tours and excursions. If you're looking for funding between $2,500 and $10,000, you can find out how to access the funds on their website.
It is the training support that they will get, very comprehensive training. We've engaged a partner in that regard. It is the development of a website that they will get complimentary in this program. It's a beautiful website that they will get, full design. Of course, a part of that will be the e-commerce opportunity that will be attached to the website. And in addition to that, they will also get the support with insurance, the liability insurance, the waiver, or some other form of ensuring that it's the safety net that they have for their tour and excursion business.
And for convenience, Ferguson says they also have ongoing micro-training programs that are offered virtually.
It's free of charge, really. There's a $10 registration fee that we ask for administrative purposes, but this is free training from expert trainers that are not just local but international as well, for persons who just want that support at any number of programs. We're talking about, how to build a better website, leveraging technology to advance your business, creating a culture of service excellence, communications in business. So a number of training programs, very compact, research-based and focused, 90-minute, hard-hitting programs that we believe will help to lift where small, medium-sized, and micro businesses are currently.
Grand Bahama welcoming the return of Neo's airline out of Italy with over 100 passengers this afternoon. There will be non-stop flights once a week from Milan, Italy to Grand Bahamas starting today until September 7th. The flights that first began back in 2016 came to a halt shortly before Hurricane Dorian in 2019. Grand Bahamians and tourism officials are welcoming the return of the flight as they believe it will bring a much-needed economic boost to the island. Our News understands that the airline has partnered with Viva Wyndham Fortuna Beach Resort. We'll have more on the return of Neo's airline during a later newscast.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
A Bahamian NFL player gives back to his hometown, and the National Baseball Tournament starts today. Hold tight, our sports is coming right up.
This Thursday started off with lots of rain that turned into a beautiful evening. Ian is back with your extended forecast when our news returns.
How is your day going?
In a word,
Today's sports update is sponsored by Michelob Ultra, distributed in the Bahamas by Jimmy's Wines and Spirits.
This is our news. Welcome back. An NFL player holds a camp in his hometown, and the National Baseball Tournament is happening right now. Here's Tage Adderley with a check on sports. Tage?
Thanks, Italia. Mike Strawn is heading into his second season as a wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. He took time from battling NFL cornerbacks to give back to his community.
As you can see, you have a lot of guys who came out, they're motivated, they're ready to roll, and we're going to have fun.
That's Mike Strawn, wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. He held his first ever football camp in his native Grand Bahama. At his camp, he taught the fundamentals of football to dozens of kids from the area. Strawn is a Freeport boy through and through, and he's elated to bring the game he plays at the highest level back to his hometown. Strawn didn't return to Freeport alone. He came with some friends.
Kamoko Teray plays for the San Francisco 49ers, defensive end. And another one, Tariq Black, he plays for the Baltimore Ravens. He's a receiver. So we have them out here supporting as well.
With roots in Guinea and the Ivory Coast, Toure wants to do something similar.
I'm here to support Mike, and try to, get these kids, give back to the community as well as Mike, because I came from Africa too, so I'm also going to do the same thing.
Grand Bahama native Joshua Saunders, a college teammate of Strawn's, is preparing himself to try out for an NFL roster. He's pleasantly surprised at the number of kids who showed up.
I think it's a great turnout, especially for it being the first one, and it's a lot more that we expected, and there's also a lot more that couldn't come. We didn't expect it to be this big for the first time, but I love the turnout. I love to see young, hungry men just like myself that going through the same process.
Strawn and his NFL friends are bringing their camp to the capital this weekend. We'll have more on that tomorrow. Speaking of events happening in the capital, the National Baseball Tournament started today. The G-Ball Andre Rogers National Baseball Championship started today at the newly constructed Andre Rogers Baseball Field. The event kicked off this morning with the College Baseball Showcase, and the opening ceremony is going on right now. Teams from under 8 to under 20 from Grand Bahama, Abaco, and right here in New Providence are all competing to see who's the best in the nation. The tournament runs through Sunday, so you have a lot of time to go out there and catch some baseball. The Bahamas is a hotbed of youth baseball talent, and you can catch the next generation of prospects at this tournament, so you don't want to miss it. That'll do it for sports today. I'm Tage Adderley.
A nice evening in the capital following a stormy morning. Ian is back with a look at the tropics in your extended weather forecast. Stay with us.
This is
Welcome back to Our News. A lovely evening outside the Our News studios this evening. Ian is back with your extended weather forecast. Ian?
Thanks, Natalia. Welcome back, everyone. Here's a look at your extended forecast as well as your tropical weather outlook. Right now, we still have Tropical Storm Brett out there. It's bearing down on the Windward Isles as we speak in close proximity to Barbados as well as St. Lucia, where St. Lucia has a hurricane watch in effect, and the other islands in its general facility has tropical warnings out there. Right trailing behind Brett, we have TD Depression 4 or Tropical Depression 4, and this is historic as there never been 2 tropical cyclones within this region, the hotspot, Atlantic region, during the month of June. So we have a lot to look forward to. Across the islands right now, cloudiness, and central and southeast Bahamas, just that high pressure system. Nothing else to talk about in our area. For the northwest Bahamas, for boating conditions, we're looking at east to southeast winds at 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be running 1 to 3 feet near shore, but up to 2 to 4 feet offshore. And you can expect the high tide tonight at 11:47 p.m. For the central and southeast Bahamas, we have a small craft caution in effect for the central islands and an advisory is in effect for the southeast Bahamas. We're also asking you swimmers out there to exercise caution due to the risk of rip currents mainly along eastern shorelines. Winds will be east to southeast at 15 to 20 knots in the central Bahamas and up to 25 knots in the southeast Bahamas. Seas will be running 4 to 7 feet in the central Bahamas and up to 5 to 8 feet in the southeast Bahamas. Here's a look at your national forecast. And in your extended forecast, again, we still have some showers lingering around the area into Saturday. Sunday, we expect things to pick up a bit with thunderstorm activity. Rainy again Monday. Tuesday, we expect some clearing. And then Wednesday, Thursday, right back into the thick of things with that summer-like pattern with afternoon showers and thunderstorms. You can expect your highs to get into the upper 80s, low 90s popping up here and there, with your lows to the mid-70s to low 80s. That's a wrap on this evening's forecast. Make it a great night, everyone.
All right, thanks so much, Ian, and thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.